So welcome to the podcast, Fernanda. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm glad we connected. I know we been talking about this for a little while, so I'm glad we finally are sitting here to record. Been following social media for a while, so I'm really excited about the topics we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited too. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, do you want to start just giving us just a little bit of about your story, just coming to the U.S. as an immigrant, and just a little bit about those challenges kind of early on when you first came to the U.S.
Yeah, definitely. It's a whole story, but yeah, I was born and raised in El Salvador, and I came to the US when I was 19 years old. And I came here to like move to the country, not because I got accepted to a college or something, like my
Hmm.
parents. My dad was living here for a while, and then they decided that it's like we have better opportunities here in the US, so like they sent me
Hmm.
here. And while I was here, uh, my dad, like, he was not making much money, so I had to work too. I only lived with him for like a year, then he moved to another state. So in reality, since I came here, like my older sister and I, we had to work. We had to had a full-time job, and but I wanted to go to college. So I signed up to go to a community college, which at that moment I didn't really know like the differences between the community college and a university. But I'm super glad that I went to a community college because I saved money. Also, like my English wasn't good at the moment. So it was really helpful to have these small classes where you can connect with the professor and the students. And while I was in the community college, I was able to find opportunities because, oh my God, like I feel like there's so many opportunities in the US in comparison to back in El Salvador. And it was really cool. I was just like, I want them all. So one of the programs that I joined, it's kind of like an engineering challenge, and it was kind of like a senior design project thing,
Hmm.
but I did it in my freshman year, and I did it for like 3 consecutive years, and I worked on a project for 6 months, and it was really cool because at the beginning we learn a lot of theory in class, but then I got to practice things with my own hands and create things, and that gave me experience to get a job later on, right? So yeah, after that I graduated from the community college, and with my associates plus this experience I was able to get a job as a project engineer. And before even like graduating college, then I that summer as well, once I graduated, I got the opportunity to do research at Princeton through this program that it's called REU, a research experience for undergrads. Like if you're listening, look them up. A lot of universities have them, and it's really cool because they pay you to do research, and you get to go to the university and live there for 10 weeks. So anyway, yeah, like after that I went to the University of Connecticut and graduated with my bachelor's in chemical engineering. And I kept having this project engineering job. Yeah. That was a lot. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's great. Something that caught my attention is the fact that you started at community college, and I think this is I've heard this from a lot of Hispanics. They start in community college and they either get their bachelor's at university, and it's a great way to save money. Do you
Hmm.
want to just explain kind of the thought behind starting a community college in contrast with like a starting just like a full bachelor's at just a regular university, and maybe some of the cost saving benefits of that? Because I feel like a lot of people think they need to go straight to college and get a degree that way and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars getting the degree rather than start a community college, finish the more technical classes, and then get a degree that way.
Yeah, I think it's also part of the culture here. My husband, for example, he went to high school here in the US. Like he's from Peru and like came when he was 13. But anyway, he was telling me that when he was graduating, like people didn't want to go to community college because he was kind of like seen as like a bad thing, like, oh, you didn't get into any university, you know. And so there's this stigma, but in reality for me, because I come from a culture where we don't actually live, like in my country we don't live in the university, so I didn't even know about that experience, and I was not like feeling like I was missing out. But I know that there's a reason. That's one of the reasons why people like actually want to go to university. But yeah, like you can save money because it's way cheaper. And for example, if you apply for the financial aid, for example, I applied for the financial aid from the government, FAFSA, and it covered everything. So for those years that I studied at the community college, I didn't have to pay anything. And even if you like, it doesn't cover for you everything or at all, like if you get in, if you get a loan to pay for a community college, it will be like way cheaper than a university, right? And I feel like you have to think about the future, not only about your experience in the moment. I know that people want to have fun and go, live the experience, but it also depends, like if you have the opportunity, if you have a scholarship or your parents save money for you to go to college. But in my case, that wasn't the case. I was financing my own education. So yeah, so I feel like it's better, yeah, to start at a community college. And I had professors that were professors at the community college and also at the University of Connecticut, so it's kind of like you have the same education, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the education is any worse or better than a college. It just kind of depends on, obviously, there are going to be good community college, there are going to be not so good community college. So it depends on where you're going. But I think
Hmm.
that's super interesting. Like, you're not the first person like from Latin America that tells me that they started community college and they went to university, and now obviously you're doing a PhD and everything. So it's not like it's a bad education. It's just a way
Yeah.
to get those first classes kind of through, and it's obviously a more affordable experience.
So I just wanted to point out that also, once you graduate from the community college, if you do get that associate, it's a degree that you can use, to get a job. And I know it's just the first 2 years of an engineering degree, but believe me, having a degree makes the difference when you're getting a job. So it is very beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. And again, you're not the first person that tells me that it's not community college. So, and obviously, you have a successful career so far, and it hasn't really limited you in anything of what you're doing. So, obviously, it works, and people need to be looking at that as an opportunity to get their like graduate or like after high school education. I know you said you were a first generation college student. Do you want to just talk about those challenges of coming to US? Obviously, English not being your first language, being a first generation college student. How did you transition when you started? Maybe some of the support or not support from your family and all that kind of big change in your life, basically.
Yes, definitely. So, as a first generation student, for those who don't know, it's like when you're the first one in your nuclear family, I think, that to graduate. So, my parents didn't graduate from college, and they didn't, they were in El Salvador anyway, so like they had no idea what was going on in the education system here. So obviously, like I had to navigate and find out everything about the education system here. And you learn the hard way, right? Like, I mean, I had to learn about like loans, financial aid. Like, there's just so much on top of being a student. So it's a lot of pressure, right? And also, I will see the difference with my classmates. I remember that for example, for my senior design project, my friends will say, like a lot of my friends will say, like, oh yeah, I asked my dad this because like their parents were engineers, and like I asked my dad this and they helped me with this, and it's like, okay, I had no one to ask, because my parents hate math and like they have no idea anything about engineering, or like I cannot ask anything about college. So there is a lack of support. But the way to like, and what you have to do, what I did, is to like find mentors, like in your time in college, and these can be like professors, or if you do a program, someone who's like running an engineering program, eh, or your advisor. But just find people and ask a lot of questions. You're gonna find that sometimes they're not gonna be helpful, or they don't want to help, but like just keep asking. I have found a lot of opportunities this way, and also that way, people see that you really want to get out of your way to find these opportunities, and they can write recommendation letters, and they're gonna say good things about you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, I'm from Colombia, and my parents did go to college, but their parents didn't. And I think it's not very common for a lot of parents from our generation to have gone to college, and grandparents. It's like I don't I don't think I know any grandparent from either of my friends that went to college. So it's not like it's uncommon. So a lot of the like Hispanics that come and are like around our age are usually first generation students, first generation college students. So there is like a completely different cultural shock coming from another country, being the first generation college student, maybe not knowing the language very well when they first came to US. So that all of that stuff kind of adds and makes it a little more challenging to overcome those things. I really like the point of just finding mentors. I think professors is a great, easy way to find mentors. Just communicate
Yeah.
with them a lot. I think
Hmm.
people on social media in this day and age, there's a lot of people that can
Yes.
follow others on social media, even if there's not like a direct mentorship relationship. I've talked to a lot of students, a lot of like younger professionals just through social media and just kind of give them advice in small things that way. So I think that's another great way to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, I have found so many people on
I
social
mean, that's how
media.
we connected,
Exactly,
just through
exactly.
social media.
Yes, and yeah, and I love that a lot of engineers now are sharing their experiences, and like we share like a lot of content with like how to
Hmm.
find internships and opportunities. So yeah, definitely get on social media and go find the STEM content creators. Also,
Right.
like you asked me, and I forgot to answer about this, about like my struggles of like coming here. And yeah, another thing that I think that it's very common for people coming from another country, it's having those cultural differences. But I think that I will also say that even if you don't come from another country, but like you're a first generation student, or you're low income, you also have those cultural differences with the people that their parents went to
Hmm.
college, or they have more money or whatever. So yeah, so obviously like those differences, for you, like you can find that there's a difficulty connecting with people. Like that happened to me for a long time. I'm like a very extrovert, I love having friends, and then I'm here in Connecticut, where like people are just like not, I mean, I don't want to say they're not friendly, but like they're just like have a different personality than mine, the majority of them. And there's not a lot of Hispanics here. So I was just like, oh my God, like this is so different, right? Like, how do I connect with people? And even, when I was working in corporate America as a Latino, it's just so different. And like, I even have read about this, like, we just have different mindsets. And the way that you go up the ladder, for example, sometimes you see that it's easier for like Americans, because it's like they already know, like it's part of the culture how they act. But for us it's different, we have different rules. So we kind of have to like learn how to navigate and understand these cultural differences, to be able to like connect and understand, and then like make decisions and act different, like if what to achieve the things that we want.
Yeah, and I think that's super true. As Hispanics, obviously, like, I don't think there's really, there are probably scholarships in universities in South America, but like it's not as prevalent as here. Like it's not like a lot of people apply for them, and there's like a lot of money available to sponsor students. So it's that concept that like I didn't personally knew until like I was in college, and like a year after I started communicating with more and more like the people from here from the US, and they're like, yeah, I have these scholarships. They pay for like 50% of the university. I'm like, and pay like full tuition. Like, where do I find these scholarships? So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting to see all the difference from like people that grow here and know kind of the system, and people that come from other countries and trying to like figure out what the best way to do all of these is. So I think that's a great point. Do you want to talk a little bit about like your PhD program and what's like to be doing a PhD program as a Latina? I know you're also a mother, so just walk us through some of those challenges that come to like really, really intense education, all the cultural challenges, and all like the personal and family challenges as well.
Yes. Okay. So, I didn't continue, telling you everything about my journey because I was like, oh my God, that's so much. But yeah, after I graduated with my bachelor's in chemical engineering, um, since I had my experience in the corporate world and I also had like a lot of experience doing research, I decided like, okay, no, like I really like doing research. One of my goals is also to be a professor. So I was like, okay, PhD is the way to go. When I graduated, I applied to different programs, and thankfully, I got accepted to a PhD program in chemical engineering as well at Yale. And I started to like 1 year and a half ago, so I'm a second year PhD student. And yeah, I forgot to mention, but I had my son. I had my son in my junior year of college when I was in engineering school, and I never stopped going to class. Like I was pregnant going to class. Then I took like I had my baby and I took like 2 weeks off, and then I went back to school. And so like he was there with me listening engineering classes. And once I started my PhD, like he was still at home with me. So obviously like that was a struggle. I do have some family here, and also like my mother-in-law, she's super helpful, so they did help me for me to find time to study. And I had that support, but obviously like a lot of times it was like Nico, that's my son's name, and me. And even like like my first year as a PhD student, he was at home with me. Right now he goes to preschool, so I can have a some peaceful time to work. But yeah, the first year was like super hectic. um but thankfully, I mean, I don't want to say like thanks to the pandemic, but like one of the good things is that I was able to work from home, so like I was able to be with him. um but yeah, like I as that was one of the struggles, right? Like being uh a mom and studying at the same time. uh, there's not like a lot of resources. I mean, usually like if it's either like, do you want to be an engineer or do you want to be a mom? Like usually I feel like women have to decide. And I didn't want to, I wanted both, right? So I tried to like make it work, but I do realize that there's a lot to be done to help the moms in STEM. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is, as I was saying, as a first generation student, my parents were super happy that I graduated with my bachelor's. But then when I was doing my PhD, for them, it was kind of like pushing it, I think. It was like, okay, like you're done, you have a degree, now you have a son, like you can stay at home and like be a good mom. And so I struggle having that conversation, and demonstrating. I mean, they didn't say it directly like that, but like they will make comments, like my family will make comments, and I just will feel bad because I was like in between. You know how like the Latino culture is, it's like you have to stay at home and like do the the things at home and like be a
Right.
mom. Yeah, and then I at the end I had that conversation, and they realized, and now we're okay. But there's like this thing where you have to like talk to them and explain to them and show them, because they don't understand. They didn't even know what a PhD was. I didn't know, but then like, you know like you have to have that conversation.
We had a similar experience. We have our oldest son literally the week before finals. So thankfully my
In
wife
undergrad.
had, yeah.
Oh my god.
So thankfully my wife, I had already graduated from my master's. So I was like working during that semester, but my wife was like literally the Friday before finals. So thankfully the only real final she had was with this professor that she's like really good friends with. Like he even came and visited at the hospital. So we had
Oh,
like everything
nice.
arranged, but like I mean, all through all the semester, just being pregnant, going to class, and everything was definitely not easy, as you could probably know and imagine. And then she wanted to get her PhD in applied math at CU Boulder, so that's how we ended up here in Colorado.
Oh,
And
okay, okay.
again, same what you said. Like, there's not really a lot of support. Classes were challenging. Like, even the professors were telling her like she needs to get like a babysitter for like at night so she can study. So that culture didn't really please her too much. So she ended up leaving after her first semester, and now she's working like just a regular job. So, like you said, there's not a lot of support when you are in college, and it's challenging if you're a mom, a young mom, trying to figure out how to raise this new human that is enter your life, and there is not really a lot of support that you can have to help you during that process. So
Yes.
I admire you a lot for still like pursuing the PhD program with the son, and obviously everything else going on. So that's something to look up to, and like I hope you can get through all of this and just be a really good example for other women or moms that want to do a PhD and have kids along the way.
Yeah, and this is why it's super important to find an advisor that will support you, and also that understands your situation, because it's not everyone just graduated from like undergrad and comes and has all the time of their life to like work.
Mhm.
But you're also, even though I'm not that type of student, I'm also valuable and bring things to the table, even though like my experience it's different. And my advisors, I have two advisors, and they're like super supportive, they're super nice. And so like if I tell them like, oh, I have Nico, like I cannot meet at this time or something like that, they're super supportive. And like whenever I need something like extra explanation or something like that, like we can meet later. So I mean, once you're applying, if you think like if you already have kids, or if you're thinking of applying in the future, like when you're finding your advisor, like try to talk to the PhD students or talk to your advisor about your plans. Like maybe you want to have kids during your PhD, and then you're gonna realize if like what kind of person you're gonna be working for. um yeah, and then the other thing that you were asking me, like what it's like to be a Latina doing my PhD at Yale. So it actually, my program, I'm the only, like in the chemical and environmental engineering department, I'm the only Latina there. So I mean, it's like, I mean, it's good, like I get along with everyone, but obviously like there's a lack of representation. I've seen I've met other Latinos in other departments, but not too many in engineering. So we need you guys, apply.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah.
definitely.
Mhm.
Something else I just want to mention is like a lot of people think that it's an obligation to go through all of these challenges and get through all of this, but you need to see it yourself or with your family and like real and think about like, is this what we really want to be doing? And I think that's kind of how my wife and I came to the conclusion that she didn't really want to go through that. She wanted to focus on the family and maybe later on she will get like her advanced degree and like pursue the career she wanted. But at this stage, as being young, we wanted to just have a family and be able to enjoy them. And she was like, "This is too much. Like I'm not going to be able to do all of this." So there's like two sides to that coin, and it's not like an easy answer. So
Oh
you
yeah,
just kind of
no,
it's
definitely.
challenging.
Yeah, and it's like there's so many factors that that come into play. It's like what kind of support do you have? What kind of advisors do you have? Because it's like every university is gonna be different. The support is gonna be different. Your family support or like whoever helps you with the kids, it's different. Because honestly, like right now, like I've seen this toxic culture in academia where like people work crazy hours, and I don't work crazy hours. I treat my PhD as a job, like with normal hours, and I haven't my advisors haven't complained yet. It's been like 1 year and a half, and they haven't told me that I'm like like they haven't complained about the work that I'm doing. So it definitely, when you're looking for the universities, like you can find out. Or as you said, if you think that you want to have a family first, it all depends on the type of what you want. But honestly, like mental health matters, and if you think that you cannot do it, like just do you, and like do whatever makes you feel better.
Yeah, and I think that the last point was a great one, because when I was doing my master's, I was expected to receive an email from my advisor at 10, 11 p.m. and have an answer by 8 a.m. the next morning. So
Oh
that
no,
was
that's
obviously
crazy.
not healthy, and
Yeah.
like something that
Exactly.
I tried to get out as fast as I could. So it's just finding the right university, finding the right advisor, the right support system, and obviously something that just be passionate about. In terms of mental health, I think that's a great point you just brought up, because as a Latina, as a mom, as a woman in STEM, I'm sure there's a lot of challenges, a lot of just mental hurdles through your PhD program. So I'm just kind of curious, how, like, what kind of friction have you faced in college, in your PhD program, and how have you been able to overcome them?
Yes. So, okay, first of all, like, let's remember I grew up in El Salvador, which is, a Hispanic country, and it's changing, but it's very common. And like at the time I was growing up, mental health, it's not something that people talk about. Going to the therapist, it was only for people when you're like quote unquote crazy, like we have this culture where we have to we make everything little, like, oh, that's nothing, other people have it worse, like stop complaining and just like keep working, and that's like that's what I learned. And when I moved here and I started the undergrad, I mean, I was going to school full time and I was working full time, and it was engineering school, so obviously it was hard. And I always felt like I couldn't complain, and I always felt like I was weak if I was not like I had to be strong, and if I felt overwhelmed, then I was weak. If I felt like I had to cry, like I was being weak. So it was really hard because I was trying to be perfect, but I couldn't do it. And I remember even one time, like I had this panic attack and I just couldn't accept that I had anxiety. Even at that moment, I was like, I'm physically sick. Like, this is not a panic attack. This is not mental, because that's really what I thought. But I'm super thankful actually because of social media and like so many creators that I follow and that I've met, that I've learned a lot about mental health. And I'm so happy that now, like, it's been normalized, having a therapist and learning about this. So honestly, like up until recently, maybe like last year, I started, trying to find a therapist, learning more about mental health and taking a break. And it has changed me so much because honestly, I'm even more productive, now that I'm not overworking myself, and now that I'm not like taking myself to the limit. And I realized, like, for what? Like at the end of the day, when you're in this like I felt like I was living in autopilot and like always living on the verge. And now like it's just like it feels so different, and I'm accomplishing even more by taking breaks, by doing things that are good for me, that feel good, self-care, yeah. So it has been a challenge because of like my culture, and also because of academia culture too, as I was telling you, like there's a lot of
Yeah.
people in academia doing the PhD or like graduate studies that they think it's cool to say, like, oh, like I'm working like 80 hours per week or something or more, I don't know. And I feel like for me it's more valuable if you tell me, like, I learned that I can work less time but be more productive, you know I've learned how to be more effective with my time. Especially, I don't know if this happened to you, but like now that I have my son, like becoming a mom, I realize that like you have less time, so the time that you have to be effective.
Yeah, and I think the same. Like a lot of people ask me, like, how do you have a full time job, have like a podcast and all the things I do on social media, a family, volunteer, like, and it all comes to like what you just said. Like, you just have less time for these things, so you just work more productively in the time you have. I was talking about this a few episodes ago. Like, the time that I put into like working on the podcast, on like on the things that I'm doing online, hasn't really like increased. I just either became more efficient. I found people that has just helped me do parts of the things that just take some time. So finding ways to just get through all of that stuff more productively is a great like productivity hack. Like, the less time you have, the more focus you will be on each of those things.
No, it is so true. Like I feel like whenever I have more time, then I start being lazy again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think all you said is super true, especially when you have a family. Your kids do challenge your mental health a lot, like by being
Yes.
just doing crazy things and all of that. But like, if you're not taking care of yourself first, if you're not, uh, for me, I really just cherish the time that I get to myself alone in the morning. I try to wake up early in the morning, so I have 1 or 2 hours. So I'm just like recharging my energy so I can be fully present for my family. But if I'm not doing that in the morning, I'm gonna be stressed out throughout the day. I'm gonna be stressed out when I'm with them, and that's not really the impression I want to give to my kids. And like, that's not how I want them to remember their childhood, basically. So if you're not taking care of yourself first, it's going to be really hard to help others. And like, obviously, this translates well to if you have mentors, if you're coaching people, like anything you do on social media. If you're not taking care of yourself first, it's really going to be really hard to be helpful and helpful with other people. So just keep that in mind. I think that's something that I really took away from what you just said. Um,
Yes.
I just want to move into that aspect of just being a social media creator, because you do a lot of great things on Instagram. I tried to create more content for Instagram, but it's just for me so time consuming, and so um, I don't really like enjoy too much doing like videos on Instagram. But I know you do a great job. I know it probably takes a ton of time because I even tried it in the past, on top of a PhD program, on top of being a mom. How do you manage all of that? And like, what's kind of your mission with your social media content?
Yes, so I actually, like, I love doing volunteering work. And before like having my son, I used to do a lot of volunteer work. And then when I had my son, obviously, like, I couldn't keep doing that, and then the pandemic hit, so I had to find other ways of giving back to the community. And everything just fell into place, and I started creating content, and I found out that it was actually like very fun for me. So it's kind of like a hobby. And also, I like helping people and like sharing this information. Like, I'm a college blogger, if you want to call it like that, and like I'm always sharing like study tips and like scholarship opportunities. And it was something that I was already doing with my friends, or if I had mentees, I was already doing that. And so when I started doing it on social media, I saw that people really liked it, and they started asking me for more. And it's something that gets me excited to see how like people tell me, oh, you motivate me, or I found this opportunity because of you. But and like, it's just like, so like, it makes me so happy to help so many people, because honestly, on social media, it's like for the world, right? So, and I have found, when you were saying like it takes a lot of time for you to make the videos, I honestly, like, I feel like everything on my life, I try to optimize it, and it doesn't take me a lot of time, but I have found, like, my formula. And as I said, like, I enjoy it. I mean, you enjoy doing your podcast. Like, I feel like that would take like a lot of time from me. But yeah, like, I enjoy doing, taking the pictures, edited, and creating the videos. And I have found, as I said, like, my formula to like not take too much time doing it, and it's super fun. And I mean, I love it because I've been able to first like connect with other engineers like you, and I have made like Instagram friends, TikTok friends. Some of them I have even met them in real life after we met online. And then also, like, I have been able, as I say, to help others. This past year, actually, I did my own engineering challenge, which, remember, at the beginning I was telling you that I this is something that I did when I was in the community college, and I always had it on my mind, like, oh, this is like super cool. So last year I told the idea to a girl that I met online. She has her own startup, Papaya Tutor. Her name is Sandra. I don't know if you like
I
have
had it
met.
here on the podcast last year, yeah.
Oh, you did?
So we
Okay, good,
definitely talked to
good.
her.
Yes, yeah. So I met her. I told her my idea, and she was like pushing me, like, "Let's do it." And we did it. Like, we had our own conference. Like, can you believe that? That is just like crazy for me to say. And we had like 800 people sign up. Can you imagine? Like, we had sponsors. It was just like insane. And we had like seminars that were helpful for girls in engineering. And then we had like the engineering challenge as well. We had people recruit, like companies recruiting. So it was so cool. It was a lot of work, but it
Yeah.
was so cool.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I was kind of following the challenge in a little bit at the end of last year. Something that really caught my attention, and it's super too, like what you said, like you really enjoy doing Instagram, taking pictures, editing your videos, and everything. I really enjoy having this conversation on the podcast and talking with people and like working on like guests and like the website and all that kind of that goes around the podcast. So that's something I think a lot of people don't talk about, is like figure out what really sticks to you. Like I really enjoy, for example, Twitter over Instagram. So I spend a lot more time on Twitter. I like doing the podcast, obviously, and I've started to like compare myself less to other people on social media, because obviously that's super toxic, and like I
Yeah.
don't want to compare myself. I have a different amount of time that other people do. So the more you look at what other people are doing, the more stress and the more self-conscious you're going to be about yourself. So focusing on the things that really matter to you, I think is super important, and something that I started to do a little more. And I think that that was a great point from what you said.
Yeah,
um,
definitely. I love that you brought that out, as well, because I feel like it's normal to fall into
mhm.
that. Even if you don't do it right now, maybe like you're gonna start comparing yourself in the future, in like real life or social media. And this just makes me think of like when I was in undergrad. Actually, like when I graduated, I mean, like while I was in undergrad, I was older than my classmates. And it's something that in the US, like in El Salvador, like it's okay, like nobody really asks your age. But in here, I feel like everyone has to be 18 in freshman year, 19, or like there's like a set schedule. And I was like always comparing, like, oh my god, like I'm not doing enough. But it's just like it becomes so toxic, and like you just don't cannot even like live life in peace, right? But then so it's good to like start accepting that everyone's life, it's unique. And there's not like a set deadline to do things. it's kind of like you're gonna graduate whenever you can, have kids whenever you can, buy a house whenever you can. And that's the beauty of life, right? Like you don't have to do it in a straight line.
Yeah, just kind of staying on your path. Like your timeline is going to be different than my timeline than any other timelines. Like it's just finding what works for you, and not trying to pursue something because other people are doing that. So I think that that's a great point. I think we're kind of coming to the end of this, but I just want to just open the floor and just ask you, like, what else do you want to tell people that are listening to this? Any advice for other women in STEM or for Latinas, moms doing PhDs? What's kind of the last thoughts here?
Yes. Okay, so I'm yeah, super excited that we did this. And one last thing is that always have, like, I always thought, like, okay, have big dreams because you never know like when you're gonna get them. Like
Mhm.
sometimes a lot of people stop themselves, and like you haven't even tried and you already told yourself that you're not gonna make it or you're not gonna get it. So I have like my favorite quote. It's like, you never fail until you stop trying. So
Mhm.
even if you're like quote unquote failing, like you're actually learning, evolving, because you're learning in the process. But the moment when you stop trying, that's when you actually fail, right? And like there's so many times in my life where I thought like, oh, I'm not gonna apply. Like seriously, like for example, when I applied to Yale, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna apply. Like they're not gonna accept me. They did, that's where I started. And like so many other things. So like don't stop yourself, like have those big dreams and just try it, because even if you don't get it, like you learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true, and that's kind of one of the things that I just really enjoy about what you do on social media, what other people do on social media, and it's something I try to do is like, if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't challenge yourself to do new things, you're never gonna know how far you can get. So it's super important to um, like, don't get down if you get a few no's. Like eventually you're gonna get that yes, that
We
big
all get
opportunity.
it. Yes, we
Yeah.
all get them. Like I feel like because we think that we see everyone's life and we see their accomplishments, let's say on social
Hmm.
media, but you never know how much they actually work, how many no's they got. Like we're all struggling, let me tell you.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't
definitely.
happen at the first try.
That is so true. Like there's been so many challenges throughout my career, and like I'm still here. I'm still putting myself out there, and I think that's super important for all people to just to realize. I just have one last question for you, and that's, how can we continue engineering our future?
Love it. Okay, so I love engineering. I love like creating, and this is my advice of how we can keep engineering. It's like keep creating, keep
Hmm.
innovating. Like you're never gonna learn everything in this world. There's always a time to learn. So yeah, just keep studying and learning and getting that knowledge.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's kind of one of the things as engineers, we should always try to improve ourselves and like learn new things, and that's kind of how we kind of all grow in society. So that's a great advice. I just want to again acknowledge you. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast, for all the great things you're doing, for being just a great example for other women in STEM that want to just accomplish big things and may feel lonely and may feel like they're the only ones struggling and with challenge and everything. So I really want to acknowledge that, and really happy that we connected. Where can people find you online, reach out to you if they have any questions, or just simply want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can put it also in the description box.
Hmm.
But yeah, like on Instagram and on TikTok, you can find me with Fern at Fern Sulantay. And I'm always sharing content that it's useful, but also you can DM me. I love connecting with people. I'm always like making Zoom, calendar invites, for like people that I meet online. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
Yeah, that's great. Again, thank you so much for coming to the podcast, and it was great talking to you.